All right, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jonah Mitchell, and man, I'm excited to be here right now. Mainly because it's no different. It's the same old podcast that comes out every single week. But I've made a major change and shift where things are at right now. This is a health and fitness podcast aimed to help simplify the weight loss process to people, chronic dieters, or anyone who's struggled with their health and fitness in general for the vast majority of their lives. My goal is to make it simple. My goal is to help you realize the actual steps, the actual inner changes that are going to make this process so much easier. And the work that I've been doing over the last 3 years, led me to an amazing opportunity. And I am now no longer running my own business, but I'm a head coach at the Transformation Project. So that's been really cool. And they've given me free reign to keep making content in my own way, which is cool because it's going to help them, it's going to help you, and it's just so much fun. So life updates happening. I'm going to save that story. Really, it's a good story for failure. I think it's going to bring this whole the New Year's resolutions things to the end, or bring them all together at the end of this. But yeah, so if you're listening right now, I thank you so much. I appreciate it. I hope this podcast helps you out wherever you're at. If you're watching my Facebook group, as well as always, #replay so more people can see it. If you're watching this on YouTube, still posting this on YouTube. I think I got like 2 of you. I appreciate you. I love you very much. And yeah, lots of fun stuff. So if you stick around for the personal stuff, and we'll just get right into these 3 effective ways to stay consistent on your New Year's resolution. And a lot of these, whenever I give lists like this, it's not, I'm not going to sit here and spew information. I'm not going to sit here and just give you a lecture. I want you to think about it where you're at, and think about it practically. All right. Think of how your past New Year's resolutions have gone. Think about how other New Year's resolutions have gone for people that and what were the common themes that probably went along with those. I'm not going to touch sugar. I'm not going to touch alcohol. I'm going to cut this out. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Right. So the focus is a lot on everything that you're not going to do, which, I think the intention is always in a great place, right? Intention is very, very important. However, if we don't understand that the focusing on the negative intention so much, it amplifies to everything else. So if we only focus on everything we're not going to do, the language repeats itself in our head. And then we focus on everything that we're not doing. And so then when we go against that, when we force ourselves to, or when we don't do what we say, or when we do the thing that we say we're not going to do, doesn't feel very well. It counteracts everything that we've been thinking, and then the spiral of negativity, restriction, overwhelm, frustration, and then, oh well, you know what, motivation's gone and I'm too busy anyway, maybe next year, right? No, none of that shit. We're not doing that this year. All right. And I have to do a podcast. I've been doing the podcast for almost 2 years now. This is the second New Year's resolution podcast I've done. Jesus, I've just been doing this, man. I have to do it every year, because I might get a new person. And if this is kind of old news to you, well, we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. So step 1, number 1, to create an effective New Year's and successful New Year's resolution. Instead of focusing on everything you're not going to do and focusing on everything you're going to take away, start focusing on everything that you can add into your diet. Maybe not even everything that you can add. Just focus on what you can add into your diet on a regular basis, on a consistent basis. It doesn't feel overwhelming, right? I love telling stories where, like, clients, they sit down with me and they're like ready for their plan, and the first thing I tell them to do is we're just going to add vegetables into your diet consistently, right? It's like, oh, I eat healthy here and there. I was like, can you do it on a day-to-day basis? It's like, no. It's like, awesome. Let's make that the goal first. It doesn't mean vegetables at every meal. It doesn't mean it has to be perfect at every meal. It just means make the intention to add at least 1 vegetable to your meals on a regular basis. Then you can work up to 2, work up to 3, and prove to yourself that you can be consistent, right? If we focus on adding into our day-to-day, if we focus on everything that we can do as a New Year's resolution, we're changing the language, right? We're changing the language, and when we change the language, it repeats on it sits there and repeats over and over and over again. And we start focusing, and without realizing, focusing on everything that we can accomplish, right? Instead of saying, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to avoid this. Okay, cool. if you don't, that's fine. You can do that, but you're not really changing the narrative in your head that proves to you that beyond motivation, you can stay away from your trigger foods that you struggle with. When we change the language that I can add one vegetable, I can add these things. So right, you're changing that environment. You're going to be able to be much more what's the word I'm thinking here? It's going to be much more enticing to you internally, right? You're going to find things to feel good about more consistently. It's like, oh man, I could do that. Maybe I can increase my water intake. Maybe I can also add a single walk, right? Maybe I can also add more protein into my diet. People talk a lot about protein, right? Start small and prove to yourself, or focus on adding the things into your, oh man, I guess I kind of bled into the second one. That happens a lot when I go on my rants. I'll start they're all connected, but these two are very connected. So the first one is focus on addition. Focus on addition, everything that you can start adding into your diet. Don't overcomplicate it. Make it very, very simple. The next one is focusing on those smaller steps, right? Focusing on adding one vegetable instead of like every single meal, right? Every meal you can do it. I bet you can do it, but that could be a bit daunting right now. So what happens when there's a work event and they provide lunch for you and there's no vegetables on the lunch? Like, did you fail? No, right? We didn't even talk about being able to accommodate for that issue, but let's start small. Let's prove to yourself that you can start at a small place first and build momentum, because every small thing leads to much, much bigger things as we continue moving the momentum forward, right? It takes a little bit of a momentum to get the snowball rolling, but once the snowball continues to roll, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? I have so many analogies. There's so many analogies here. I was thinking of one before I went live. I'm probably going to make like a TikTok or a reel about this, but and I'm stealing this from my buddy Jared, who says it all the time. We got to start treating our weight loss journeys and our New Year's resolutions like brushing your teeth instead of root canal, right? Root canal sucks. Root canal is awful. Everyone hates root canal. But brushing your teeth, you just do it. Hopefully, I hope you brush your teeth right now, but it's pretty boring, right? You just do it. You don't think about it. It just happens. Just part of your routine. You just do it. That's the same way we want to get the way you see weight loss. Instead of this thing that sucks, it's miserable, that's grueling, that you have to do, it's something that you just do. You do it twice a day, and you know the benefits of doing it. You know the consequences of not doing it, right? And the consequence, I'm not going to go down like this fear mongering thing, but there is good and bad consequences to everything that we do, right? So understanding that, like, okay, if we start small and focus on the things that will make it more like brushing our teeth, then it's going to be, again, less daunting, much easier to sustain. And, a lot can change in a year, especially when you just commit to small steps, focusing on adding into your day-to-day instead of always depriving, always telling your brain that you can't have certain things. But I feel like I've been talking about this a lot. It's like the whole relationship that we have with our head. When you tell the kid you don't touch that, all they want to do is touch it, right? I want you to change that language. I want you to focus on being able to say, I can have that, right? Because ultimately, I don't want you to just eat chicken, rice, and broccoli. I want you to be able to have the choice to add pizza, to add ice cream into your diet when you see fit, right? When you want it, when you truly want it. If you're just doing it by default because it's all you know, right? And then you get upset at yourself for not making a healthier choice. Like, did you even know how? Did you give yourself enough momentum, right? I was just talking to a client who's a teacher. She's amazing. She's awesome. She's one of the most strongest women I've ever met in my entire life. And she's been working really hard at just understanding when to say yes and when to say no, right? And this is a tough time of year because her kids love her. Her students love her. And they keep giving her candy and sweets, and they have really good intentions, but she's trying to be a little bit healthier. She wants to just understand. She just wants to be able to make choices without unknowingly just eating the things that gets her annoyed. And we've been talking a lot the past few weeks about just, hey, what do you want to do? What decisions do you want to make? And she's been saying, like, I don't want to eat these things, right? And like the guilt of throwing away could feel a little bit rough, right? But still, like, accepting the gift is awesome. Choosing to not eat it because it doesn't really align with you is way more impactful, right? Tells your brain that you can make the choices that are most aligned with you. That's, again, I feel like I said this a lot, but we want to make the most aligned decision, right? Align with our goals and align with how we want to live. Most of the time we want to be in a sustainable deficit. We want to be making healthy choices, nutrient dense choices that are going to help us feel better and sustain our goals for the long run, right? Then afterwards, right, or not afterwards, but that gives us the wiggle room to enjoy food the way we want to, right? Here and there, sparing. Like 80% consistency is all we need, right? 80%. That gives you 5 to 6 days every month to enjoy meals, right? 1 or 2 meals on those days that aren't healthy or on your diet, and it's okay, right? Because we're establishing that consistency, right? So very, very important to focus on addition, and then of taking those smaller steps, and then watching the language that you give to yourself, and learning to say, and all this helps you realize that consistency is the name of the game, and that's it. It's not deprivation. It's not starving yourself. It's not avoiding everything that you hate or everything that you love. Excuse me. We want to avoid everything that we hate, like diets that suck, workout programs that are unrealistic. But those are the things that are going to really tip the literal and figurative scale in our favor coming up in the near future. With all this is starting to understand addition, small steps, and build up momentum in that, with those positive affirmations in your head that you can do certain things. And then number three, this one is really, really important, and also probably the most difficult to understand. But how do I word this? Actually, you know what? It's really easy to word. We want to really focus on being honest with yourself. All right. Really, really look deep down, look in the mirror this year and say, I'm just going to be honest with what I'm doing, with the choices I'm making, with the lack of consistency or the incredible consistency, right? Just being honest with where you're at. I have another client story who, you know, when we first started, she came right out the gate. You know, there was some ups and downs, but, you know, she established consistency and was crushing it. Then life tends to find a way to knock us down and knock us down a peg and challenge everything that we're doing right now, to make us question, like, is this actually what we want to do? You know, and in those times when it's very, very tough, and you know, it's hard to be as focused or as motivated, you know, it's very easy to just like to let it get us down enough where we get very frustrated, we get very annoyed at everything that we're choosing, and then we start losing that consistency, without losing that honesty, and feel like we're doing everything we can. And when we stop seeing those results, it gets very annoying, and then we're trying to just force our way through it. We're trying to just be, or not, we're trying to force our way through the tough time while still trying to have the same motivation and having the same drive, when in reality the time that you're in, or the situation that you're in, doesn't allow you to have the same amount of commitment and consistency, right? Things are tough, right? And we have to be honest and say, hey, you know what? I can't focus as much as I ideally would like to. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? If you can be honest with yourself and give yourself that break, that grace, and say, hey, this is not fair to compare the time when I didn't have as much stress to the time now that I'm in, where I am just completely overwhelmed with everything going on. And if you can't give yourself that honesty, you're always just going to be frustrated. You're always just going to be annoyed, and always trying to chase something that is at this moment really, really hard, really not impossible, but really difficult to obtain. And that's the problem, is now we're trying to chase something that we physically cannot get to right now, or it's really difficult to get there. And even if we do, we don't feel good while doing it. We feel we're struggling. We're struggling to sustain it. And when it's hard to sustain, it's probably not going to last. And then that's where we spiral, we feel like we're losing progress, right? So anyway, being honest and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I can't do everything that I would ideally like to right now, but realistically, I can do one or two things right now that's going to get me through this time of year, right? Maybe I can shift gears a little bit and know that I'm still making progress, right? And the honesty leads to these conversations. It's hard to have this conversation in the beginning, when you're just so focused on everything that everything that you think you have to do all the time to be healthy. In reality, the only thing that you have to do is keep moving forward. Right? Keep moving forward. That's the most important thing. And sometimes moving forward feels lateral. Feels like you're just kind of hanging out and doing the bare basics. But like what I said earlier, like, you just brush your teeth, right? No matter if you're sick. Well, sometimes maybe if you're sick, you don't brush your teeth, but you know, sometimes you don't want to brush your teeth, but you know what? I'm just going to brush my teeth. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for a minute instead of 2 minutes, because I'm just going to get it done. Right. That's the same thing here. Just be honest with where you're at right now. And if you cannot physically give as much as you would like to, do not beat yourself up for that. Be honest and just say, hey, that's okay. What can I do? Right? What can I do instead of what am I not doing? I mean, like I said, these are all very, very connected, right? You're not a failure for for losing motivation, right? Motivation is a feeling. I really want everyone to understand that it is a feeling, just like happiness is a feeling, sadness is a feeling. You don't stay that way for a long time, right? So we just want to just get going in the right direction and understand that simplicity is the key. Simplicity is the key to consistency, right? The more simple it is, the more enticing it is, the more that we feel like we're going to get by doing these things, the more likely we're going to want to keep showing up, right? It's not motivation, results, sustainable consistency. It's, oh man, no, I'm fucking that up. People think it's motivation, action, results. There it is. It's not that way. It's not that way at all. It's action, results, motivation, right? When you start seeing, more importantly, when you start feeling better, right? You start noticing the differences that your changes are making, right? And then you start seeing the results. That's what motivation actually is, right? Or discipline actually is the will to do something because you know it makes you feel better, right? Not forcing yourself to do it because you think you have to, right? When we think we have to do it, right? We're not going to go down the rabbit hole of like terminal illness or anything like that when it comes to like health, but like the relationship that's going on in our head, when we want to do it, we're much more likely to show up in a much better manner, a much better light. We're going to feel better consistently. We're going to directly correlate the changes to the decisions we're making. And when we do that, it starts to become much more a part of your life, right? And this is what I want the new year to be for you, right? I want this new year to be something that you look at and be like, you know what? Realistically, I can do just a couple things, but those couple things, I'm going to stay as consistent as I possibly can, right? And they're going to be really easy to do. And I'm going to be honest with myself and know like, hey, if I could commit and go all in and do everything that I feel like I have to do, great. But I know that if I need to dial it back and just focus on a couple things, that's fine. Just being honest and having those conversations with yourself and allowing yourself to understand, like maybe weight loss isn't the focus right now. Maybe just saying yes and no in the right times can be progress, right? Saying yes to knowing when to say yes, knowing when to say no, right? I don't always want you to say no to an unhealthy, quote unquote, decision, right? I want you to be able to look at the decision and say, does this align with who I am right now? Does this align with what I want to accomplish right now? Yes or no? And if it's yes, great. Just know that you gave yourself the permission, right? And this is all coming together. These are all connected in so many ways, because everything that I talked about, these three ways of the focusing on addition, being honest with yourself, focusing on these smaller steps, is allowing you to change the conversation that's going on in your head, so that consistency and showing up on a regular basis, and then all the scientific side of programming and understanding your calorie deficit, the optimal protein amount, the optimal fiber amount for optimal gut health, like all that stuff is cool. But if we cannot get over this hump and establish that, hey, the words I use, the language I speak to myself, the way I see this journey, the way I see myself, are all very, very important. And once we give ourselves the grace, the understanding, and the acceptance and the allowance of where we're at and what we can accomplish, those things start to have much more impact, much more important factors, right? They have much bigger impacts on our journey. And that's what I want. I want year 2023. That's so weird. Does anyone else feel like the year 2023 just sounds weird to say? Or is that just me? I might be crazy. I don't know. I don't like the 2020s for some reason. It just doesn't roll off the tongue as well as I would like. I don't know. I think I'm just being weird and going down a different rabbit hole. But understand that this year is not just like, all right, I'm super motivated and I'm ready to go and I'm ready to crush it. It's more about, okay, I'm going to do the best I can for the current situation I am, to find the current situation that I am in, to find the actual direction that I want to go, that's going to align with me, and is also going to give me the goals that I want to have without all the miserable shit I've tried in the past, right? We're not trying to just force ourselves and create more willpower out of thin air. We're trying to find the actual path that we want to be on, right? That's the whole goal I want for you this year. All right. This is all I've ever wanted. That's why I keep showing up. So I want you to understand this. And it starts a lot up here, and it's something that I'm very, very passionate about. And if you're still listening, I hope you found that valuable. And if you're curious as to why, I was telling my Facebook group before I went live or started recording this, and when I started, when I started this podcast, I said I am no longer running my own coaching business. And I just want to give a little bit of behind the scenes with that. I told my clients what was going on before I made the announcement. And, as I made the announcement, I got all the support from everyone who listens to this podcast, for many people. And I'm so incredibly appreciative. Thank you for all the kind words you all said. you know, when we're talking about making aligned choices and everything that we're going on, I started coaching out of pure accident. And I was only just trying to make a little bit of cash for my wedding. That was it. I didn't see this as a business. I just saw it as like, hey, I could maybe make a little bit extra money since COVID's happening. Oh man, I shouldn't have said that. Now it's not gonna. Now they're not gonna push it. They're gonna scan it and they're gonna yell at me. Damn it. But yeah, I wasn't working. I didn't. My gym was closed. I wasn't personal training anymore, and I was just there's a month where I wasn't doing anything. And then my wife Hannah, she walks out of our bedroom after a month of me literally playing one video game for 111 hours. Yeah, I didn't do anything that month other than eat, work out, and play that one video game. when the first month of the dirty C word happened, and after that, it just kind of sparked. I was like, you know what, I'm going to see if I can do this online thing, and I just didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying things here and there. I was doing it for about 6-7 months, and then I started understanding that, hey, like maybe I can do this whole business thing. And then I started learning what business looked like. And, my wife, Hannah, she comes from a family of entrepreneurs. Her dad and stepmom own an event center. Her aunt owns a restaurant, and their grandfather owns their own salsa company. Yeah. By the way, you can find Hannah's face on a salsa jar in King Supers or City Market if you have that, in the salsa section. And I can't remember I think it's La Favorita, maybe. I don't know. I'm gonna have to post a picture of it one day. But Hannah's famous. Her face is on salsa. Anyway. So yeah. So like when she joined, it was really exciting. Like I never thought I could ever be an entrepreneur. And I was around a bunch of entrepreneurs, so I wanted to give it a shot. I wanted to give it a try, see what this whole thing was like. And there's a lot of things I didn't know, and there's a lot of things I struggled with. There's a lot of things I failed at. Like I failed so much. For 3 years, I've made so many dumb decisions, um, and that's kind of the point is really to just make decisions and learn from them, right? Even though we don't like being uncomfortable, we don't like making wrong decisions, we don't like all the things that go into failing. Looking back on all of it, it went by in a flash. Everything that I struggled with is way in the past. Well, not way in the past, but it's back there. Anyway, I'm going down a bit of a rabbit hole. So that was the whole thing. It started growing, and all the lessons I learned. And then, me and Hannah tried to live in an RV. That was a horrible, horrible decision. Horrible decision to do, because we weren't the business owners that we thought we were. And we also didn't realize how stressful things would be in an RV if everything's breaking down all at the same time. You don't have running water, you don't have consistent Wi-Fi, you don't have insulation, and we're doing this in fall of in Washington. It was cold, it was just freezing, and everything was stressful. Me and Hannah were barely talking to each other because everything was breaking. And we had to come back, and we were almost bankrupt from that whole thing. And we had to move back in with my in-laws, and we got back, and we were just laying on the floor of their office on a full mattress. I'm 6'2", like over 200 pounds, and I don't fit on a full mattress. So it's me and Hannah on a full mattress, and our dog Blue trying to lay there. This was this time last year. A little bit, or like maybe a year and a month ago or something like that. Where this tired, exhausted, emotionally distraught, and we just sitting there crying like we fucked up. We did. And when we stopped, when we kind of calmed down, we looked at each other like, all right, this is what we're going to try and do. We're going to make this work, and we started focusing on building and getting things back into the swing of things this whole last year of 2022, right? Our New Year's resolution was to build our business back up, and we did it. We had an awesome time together, for the most part. But then things started to kind of rear their heads, a couple months in, where me and Hannah would butt heads consistently all the time. It was just not fun. It wasn't working. Something wasn't working. We just didn't jive well, and we started becoming more business partners than married couple. And it became so annoying, to the point where we were just at this place where it was like, we were in a tough spot with our relationship. And if we didn't leave each other during the RV, we probably weren't going to leave each other because of the business, but it just didn't feel right to us anymore, and that's why Hannah stopped showing up in the Facebook group as often as she used to, because this just wasn't working for us, and it just wasn't what she wanted to do anymore. And because we did that, we've been so much better, and this is something I'm actually genuinely passionate about. And not that she's not passionate, but it's just not the same fire that I have for helping people, right? And that's okay, right? And because we did that, much better relationship. And I've been trying to do this by myself. I've been trying to build things up. I had, my amazing assistant coach, Karen, she's been there by my side the entire time until the point where I was like, hey, I'm like, she didn't have enough clients. So I helped her get a new job because I just couldn't support her. Right. Then it was just me. And I'm sitting here like, man, this is tough. There's a lot of things that I have to do. And business is hard. One of the most challenging things I've ever done. But it forced me to get really good. It forced me to get better at what I was doing. It forced me to look at myself and be honest with where I was at. And, as I was talking to my own mentor, my own coach, I was telling her I was just at this tough time. Like, I don't know what I do anymore. It's this point where I'm just like questioning everything now. And she's the one who even introduced me to the idea of working at the Transformation Project. And, it worked out. It worked out swimmingly. Like, they were just hiring, and I had enough, really. I love coaching, but the business side just wasn't my thing. And I met Nick Larissa. They're all about business, and they're like, I don't want to coach anymore. I'm like, cool, let me coach. I want to coach everybody. And yeah, and I want to tell you that story because even though it was technically a failure, after 3 years in business, I learned so much. This year, our New Year's resolution was to build our business back up, and we ended up shutting down our business. Well, and it's things change, and that's okay, right? We and it ended up working out in a much better way. So things get hard. They're supposed to be hard, right? They're supposed to be a challenge. They're supposed to tell you everything. They're supposed to remind you of all the things that go right in the world, right? Even though we don't always want to be in the low parts of our lives that are always a struggle. Sometimes we want to break. We want to feel good. We want to feel happy. Sometimes you got to go through something to remind yourself of there's something better on the other side once you get through it. And like I said, I get to still show up here. I get to still do my podcast. I get to coach more people. I get to help coaches. I'm really excited about that because coaching is fucking hard. Like when I work with clients, there's a lot of difficult feelings and emotions that go into it. Working with coaches, we experience the same things and we get in our heads a lot. And it gets, and if we don't address those, it's very hard for us to show up for the client. That's something I'm really passionate about, is helping coaches show up for the client better by taking care of themselves and getting out of their own heads, right? That's why I keep talking about very similar headspace stuff, because if we don't get out of our heads, nothing else matters. But yeah, as I move forward, and I get to still make stuff. I get to still show up in here in my podcast, on my podcast, in my Facebook group. And I share this story with you. I just want you to know, like, I wouldn't be here without you listening and watching this. I do this for you, and because of you, it's allowed me to find a new path, meet amazing people, get to work with awesome people, and continue to feel a passion that I love. And I do this because I love it. And I hope it helps. I really genuinely do. So this story was probably longer than the actual podcast itself, or the 3 tips for sustainable New Year's resolution. And I'll put that in the notes of the or the title of the podcast episode when it releases. But hey, I'm done ranting. I'm done rambling. And I appreciate you for watching. And I hope you learned something from me. I hope you continue to learn something from me. I always want to be super open about what's going on. And I'm not perfect. I know a lot of things. I still struggle with a lot of things. I still just try to show up and do my best. Just as I hope you understand that that's all you ever need to do, is still learn, still try, just keep trying to figure it out. Sometimes it doesn't work out the way you hope, but if you just keep trying, eventually things may work out, and in the least likely way that you would expect. But yeah, I am done rambling. That is it for today's episode of the podcast. And I hope you found it valuable. I hope you learned something, and I will see you in next week's episode. Take it easy.